could win the presidential election because they've already had the first round. Explain the French system. People are elected, the president's elected by popular vote. There is no electoral college. And if somebody gets over 50% of the votes in the first round, he or she is the president of the republic. But that very seldom happens. And the presidential elections every 5 years. President can serve a maximum of 2 terms. It used to be 7 years, but it was still just 2 terms. So no woman has thus far been elected president of the French Republic. So the first round took place some days ago, and as nobody won 50% on the first round, as usually happens, then the top 2 candidates go through to the second round, and the lower ranked candidates are eliminated from the race. Now, the advantage of this is that whoever becomes a president actually had the majority of votes cast in his or her favour. You can't be winning 11% of the vote and there were 10 candidates and you still became president because that was more than anybody else. No. The incumbent is Emmanuel Macron, who founded En Marche in 2016, just a year before the previous French presidential election. He was previous in the Socialist Party, he was finance minister, he was a self-made multimillionaire before he became president at the age of, I think it was 41. So he's got youth and vigor and he's very telegenic, he's got that on his side. But a lot of people are dissatisfied with him. Macron won, but sour victory. Half France hate him. I doubt she will win because the opposition will vote for Macron. Well, the opinion polls are showing is very tight. So at the same thing happened last time, is that Emmanuel Macron, he was the front runner going to the second round. Marine Le Pen was behind him, but significantly behind him, and he won about 66% of the vote. But this time it's much closer. So every opinion poll shows him winning, but not by much. Sometimes it's within the margin of error. So typically winning by 4%, but there are other ones showing winning by like 2%. So things could happen over the next few days. Remember, 24th of April is the day that they've got to actually cast their ballots for the second round. Marine Le Pen, she's more popular in eastern France and indeed on La Côte d'Azur. That's very southeast of France, along the Mediterranean coast. So her father was a perennial presidential candidate as well, Jean-Marie Le Pen, abominated by some, called a fascist. He was openly racist in the 1990s, but when France won the World Cup in 1998 and half their players were black, he was nevertheless embracing them. So Marine Le Pen has moderated her image considerably. She's no longer so into colour prejudice. Well, her father said that the Holocaust was a mere detail of history. I don't think he said it didn't happen, and he bragged about having tortured Algerians when he was a soldier in Algeria in the 1950s. But Marine Le Pen has been more anti-Muslim. She said she would outlaw the hijab in public. Now, last time she was having a flirtation with Frexit, leaving the European Union, wanted to renegotiate France's terms of membership of the European Union. If that was unsatisfactory, she would withdraw France from the European Union. She's dropped that policy. She's appealing to more people. She's detoxified her brand somewhat. The two are clashing. Marine Le Pen famously had a meeting with Putin shortly before the last presidential election. Now she's distanced herself from him, but she's still more open to dialogue on the Ukraine-Russia conflict than others. Now people say that Putin likes to amplify anti-democratic forces in Western countries, would-be totalitarians. He's seen Marine Le Pen as a divisive figure, someone who could enfeeble NATO, the European Union, and so forth. Because France has been quite fulsome in supporting Ukraine's fight for freedom, arming Ukraine, moving towards sanctions, imposing some sanctions, trying to wean itself off Russian oil and gas. Of course, a bit easier for France because they got the highest per capita use of nuclear energy in the world. And they've had no disasters with it because they just do it carefully. So anyway, President Macron has said that the challenger, that she's got authoritarian views, and that it's really just a rebranding exercise, her posing as more of a centrist, and really that's not the case. But why are French voters perennially dischuffed? Well, the economy's not doing well enough, public service is not doing well enough, this is sort of a pensions time bomb, the country's so in debt. But despite that, it's really not that bad. Unemployment is fairly low. Obviously, they've got the euro. I mean, inflation is quite low. I mean, there is some inflation. It's got a bit worse because of the Ukraine situation and so on. So there were other people who have views similar to Le Pen, like Zemmour, and he's been knocked out. Sorry, given his imprimatur, forgive me. Given his imprimatur to Marine Le Pen. Thank you. So how will it go? The more left-wing candidates will endorse Emmanuel Macron, even though they're not satisfied with him. He's not left-wing enough. He really is a centrist. He's not doing enough for the poor. He's not really taxing the rich, and so on. Yeah, it's I think Emmanuel Macron will win. I'm not saying I'm sure he'll win. I think he won't win by very much. Look at the tea leaves. They said that election campaigns do very little. I wouldn't be shocked if Marine Le Pen were to win. So yes, she can win, but I think it unlikely. I'm not saying it's very unlikely, just less. It's more unlikely than not that she'll win. Okay, so anyway, she was too sympathetic with Russia's position on Ukraine previously. Ukraine has banned her and so on. So Mélenchon, who came third, he was stronger in Paris and some of the major cities in the south as well. So it's been fascinating how it is. Marine Le Pen is actually maybe more popular in rural France as well as him saying eastern and southern France. And then in the overseas territories, because I got them in the Pacific Ocean and indeed in the Caribbean, there is Mélenchon and Emmanuel Macron, which is actually quite weak in the overseas territories. So it'll be a real nail biter. What would happen if she's going to win? It would really upset the European Union and NATO. I think the euro would probably lose some value. I think she probably wouldn't be that drastic. I don't think she'll withdraw them from NATO or anything like that. And France is a very significant country in NATO, I mean, after the United States, because they got nuclear weapons. One of only 3 NATO member states to have nuclear weapons. It's a real linchpin of the European Union. So it would send jitters through the political establishment, like Viktor Orban. People might say, oh, she'll degrade human rights and things like that. I mean, I'm against it for all sorts of reasons. I mean, I don't think people should be banned from wearing headscarves in public. I mean, you dislike this attire, all right. Not a reason to forbid people from wearing this kind of thing. People say that she's soft on Putin. She's not been excoriating for his illegal war of aggression and the numerous atrocities his forces have perpetrated against the Ukrainian people. So we should be more into the French national interest and saying, well, we'll do whatever we can for low oil and gas prices. Well, yeah, so she's a French Donald Trump, that's true. And her niece has been to speak at some of these pro-Trump rallies in the United States. A very exquisite-looking nubile niece. All right, thank you so much for watching me. Toodle pip until next time.